Be ready. 10 seconds to go. Start. Even if all things enumerated above are favorably placed, there still remains the need for enlightened and committed leadership. Your own experience in 1963 amply fortified what I want to say now. At the point of time, India was very fortunate to have been led into experimenting with imported seeds and technology by a very brilliant, adventurous, and confidence inspiring team. Mr. C. Subramaniam was then the Union Minister of Agriculture, but he by himself could have achieved precious little if the bureaucracy led by the secretary Mr. Sivaraman had not supported him to the hilt with his well digested briefs, but both of them still would have perhaps been inadequately of India's most far seeing scientist, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, were not there to relate the available research and information with the desirability of taking such an initiative. All the three persons from the south stood true and firm in taking the most unwelcome decision of importing 18,000 tons of Mexican seed in 1966, even if each one of them could have lost his head in the bargain. It was a show of administrative drive and political will at their best. There were many more friends who contributed their might to the success of the wheat revolution in India in no insignificant a manner. Happily, I can place many of them beaming smiles at me in this august audience. I compliment them on having participated in this high drama at a momentous period in the history of the nation. For it is not so simple to manage to import new technology, particularly in the traditional societies such as India. But it is the illiterate farmer who did the trick with such an ease. Let me here remind my listeners that it is not the scientists but the farmer that finally produces the food. Not that the role of scientists is not important, but the new technologies produced by them have got to be demonstrated to the actual producers, which means the farmers before they are able to translate dreams into realities. And even demonstration can prove counterproductive if the package does not have the backing of proper economic and political policies. Hence, a good amount of homework has to precede the actual change in agricultural practices. But the results so far have been more than encouraging, and we hope they shall be better. Now I turn to my experience in Africa. Most academicians and intellectuals from the affluent nations were asking, could the Indian or Pakistani or Mexican experience be replicated in the dark continent? Africa is socially and culturally so different, so backward, not yet exposed to modern ideas of mobility and innovation. But it was worth trying. We started with a small transfer of technology in respect of soya and maize 4 years ago. The research in this case had come from one. India's private companies are incredibly strong, deep, and varied by comparison with all these major rivals, which also helps explain why it tends to rise and fall with global trends. Every time a global tailwind picks up, no matter what the sector, India catches the breeze because it has so many sales up in every sector. Both the Indian stock market and the economy have steadily outperformed other emerging markets over the past 3 decades, and that basic trend should roll on for the foreseeable future. India's economy now seems to move like a vast oil slick on the global sea, for too broad, far too hard to grasp to be contained or even shaped by any one leader sitting in Delhi. In recent years, the 3Ds of slower demographics, debt, and deglobalization have slowed growth across the world. There is not a single region that is currently growing faster than its average growth rate in the last decade. Every country needs to lower its expectations, and the least developed countries need to lower their definition of fast growth from above 7% to above 5%. The number of countries growing that fast is shrinking rapidly. As of 2010, there were 78 countries growing faster than now. There are just 28, and India is one of them, whether you believe official growth statistics or not. The performance is, however, not necessarily cause for political celebration. The least developed economies tend to grow fastest, and India has reflected this basic development dynamic for decades, particularly since India began opening to global trade and capital flows in the 1980s and 90s. Its economy has tended to grow about 2 percentage points faster. Stop.